the Taxman, and welcome back to the Taxman Show. This is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560.
The answer.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Know-It-All, the segment where attorney Stephen Leahy is going to answer those questions that is going to be great for content on YouTube and ChicagoTaxTeam.com, because it's going to be your hub to fight the IRS.
You haven't been saying that lately. I missed that, Jim.
I haven't been saying your hub?
Yeah, your hub.
I say it that's my tagline.
I know, but that's why I miss it, because you haven't really been saying it. I noticed that you haven't said it. Anyway, let's talk about what the question is. It's kind of a mundane question, but not. I don't know what that means. Okay, because it's about bankruptcy. So the question is, and I got this week, I'm filing bankruptcy. Isn't there something like a co-debtor stay? And so that means the IRS can't go after my wife if I file bankruptcy and she doesn't. Can they still go after her? And
that's a great question.
Yeah, because generally when you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, there's a co-debtor stay. What that means is if my wife and I have a credit card together, and I file for protection under Chapter 13 bankruptcy, the credit card company, and my wife does not. She's not filed. The credit card company can't go after my wife because there's a co-debtor stay. They can't go after her while I'm in bankruptcy. Okay, so a lot of times when people owe the IRS, so I had a client whose ex-wife, they used to file together, and he owes some money. So she owes the money too, but they're coming after him, and so he has to file. Wants to file for protection under bankruptcy law under Chapter 13. And he said, "Well, will they still go after my wife?" And the answer is, unfortunately, the answer is yes. They can still go after your wife. Why? You just said that if it was a credit card, they couldn't. Because here's the thing: the co-debtor stay applies to consumer debt. I mentioned this earlier, and I've done a show about this before, that taxes aren't considered consumer debts.
That's right. You have done that. You know where I watched that? It was on our YouTube
channel. And because sometimes this can be used as a very big advantage for people, that IRS debt is not a consumer debt, because it's one way to avoid what they call the means test. So if your income is higher than the average family your size, then you may not be able to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. But if the majority of your debt is not consumer debt, so I have a business and I'm running a business, or I have a lot of taxes that I owe taxes on, then it's not consumer debt. And if the majority of my debt is not consumer debt, then the means test doesn't apply. And I can file for Chapter 7 where I couldn't do it otherwise. And I've done this for clients that were actually gone to see other attorneys. They were going to do a Chapter 13. Their payments were going to be $400-500 a month. And instead I did, and that's for 5 years now. $100 a month for 5 years, 60 months is $6,000. So $500 a month for 60 months is $30,000. That's what he would have had to pay under Chapter 13. Instead, because the majority of his debt was IRS debt, non-consumer debt, then we can file for a Chapter 7, and he walked away from his debt and didn't have to pay $500 a month, saved him $30,000. Okay, but so there's a plus side to taxes being non-consumer debt, but the downside is that if I file a Chapter 13 and I have a co-debtor, so my wife, my ex-wife, whatever, and the IRS can still go after her, still levy her wages, can still levy her bank account.
So like ex-wife or your ex-spouse, they could still go after?
Exactly, because whenever you file a joint tax return with your wife or, with whatever, then they are also liable for the debt.
Could you imagine that? God, I hate that guy. He was the worst.
Here's the debt. Well, this is where they have innocent spouse protection. And so sometimes, and that's another, and we'll talk about that on a different show because that gets very involved too. So sometimes like they get divorced and the ex-wife was like, I didn't know we owed all this money in taxes. You didn't tell me. That happens a lot. And so there is something called an innocent spouse where I could prove to the IRS that that wasn't your tax obligation and they shouldn't come after you for that. And so, and you can avoid it that way. But if you sign the tax return, you are jointly and severally liable for that tax debt. debt, and that means if he files bankruptcy and he gets away from and they discharge his debt, they can come after you for the whole thing. You being the other person that did not file bankruptcy. And if he's in a Chapter 13 in a payment plan, they could still come after you, even though you were a co-debtor. Even though those credit cards, as I mentioned, they can't come after you, but here's what they can do. After a Chapter 13, so say if I owed $25,000 and he's paying 10%, so he pays $2,500. And on the co-debtor, they can't come after me while he's in bankruptcy. But after the bankruptcy, I didn't file bankruptcy. He got away from the debt. He's walking away from it. But I'm not going to be able to walk away from it. And after the bankruptcy, they can come after me. And see, so because I signed it. I can
see their...
Yes. Yeah. So it gets complicated. So again, if you have co-debtors, if you're thinking about bankruptcy, if you owe the IRS, call me. I'll give you some information about it. Anyway, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions regarding this question or others, call Open Tax Resolution 312-664-6649 or visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. It's going to be your hub to help fight the IRS. See, I say it every time. I'm telling you, man. Anyway, remember, it is going to be your hub. And I'm Jim Leahy with At Properties. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, give me a call today, 847-271-3695. Now, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're wrapping the show up IRS Radio Hour style here on AM 560.
The Answer.